Is the genocide Israel committing in Gaza really about Israel's right to defend itself, or is it about resources, as usual? Now, if you're like me, you know your political history, you know that there's not really any government that is racist only for the sake of being racist, although it may seem like it at the time. What it's really about is dehumanizing a group of people in order to justify their exploitation somehow. And in the case of Israel, it looks like they may be trying to justify the genocide of the Palestinians in Gaza because of the natural gas field that lies within their borders that most people don't know about. Gaza's marine gas field is estimated to have over 1 trillion cubic feet of natural gas. And initially, Netanyahu said the Palestinians in Gaza were supposed to benefit from the extraction of this natural gas. But the convenience of the attack on October 7th effectively made it that now Netanyahu can justify taking all of the natural gas in the region, cutting out the Palestinians and using it strictly for Israel's benefit. And here's why I say the attack on October 7th is convenient. See, the world tried to sanction Russia for the Russia-Ukraine conflict, but then Russia retaliated by putting sanctions and limitations on the natural gas they were willing to export. That has, of course, led to natural gas raising in price across the board. That's also led to an increase in price in your utility bills and energy overall, which I'm sure most of you have already felt. And now that Ukraine's leadership has all but admitted explicitly that they are going to lose this war, that means the entire Western world will be at the whims of Russia when it comes to natural gas. And the Western world can never allow such a thing because you also know that international relationships and allyships are formed based off of resources. And so I say the attack on October 7th was convenient because it was just June of last year that Egypt and Israel made this pact to boost natural gas in Europe specifically. And so it's a little bit of a coincidence that as Ukraine is on the cusp of losing this war, all of a sudden this attack happens that justifies Israel taking total control and not giving Palestine anything, which obviously benefits Israel in a number of ways. As a small example, I'm sure a lot of you are trying to figure out how the hell could so many Western leaders be cheering for the genocide that is happening in Gaza? Well, because all of those Western leaders belong to countries that are being directly hurt and impacted by the natural gas situation. So it is highly possible that Palestinians in Gaza right now are suffering in large numbers because the United States decided to start a war with Russia by way of Ukraine for the benefit of NATO, knowing that Russia could retaliate. And because they did not get the result they wanted, they now have to turn to Israel to supply natural gas to all the countries that tried to screw over Russia. In other words, it's all about resources, as usual.
With your permission, I will clarify what is self-defense under international law, and so that everyone can understand, well, there is not such a thing that Israel could claim. So in common language, self-defense might be understood as the right to protect oneself. But however, Article 51 of the UN Charter that Israel has invoked is not just the right to protect itself. It's self-defense under international law. It's a legal term of art and means the right to wage a war, which Israel doesn't have. And this is consolidated jurisprudence of the supreme judicial organ of the United Nations. I understand that the state practice might diverge, United States and Iraq, but the law remains the law, and this is what we should follow. So the right of self-defense can be invoked when a state is threatened by another state, which is not the case. Israel has not claimed that that has been threatened by another state. It's been threatened by an armed group. Qualify it the way you want, but it's an armed group within the occupied territory. And frankly, even saying the war between Gaza and Israel is wrong, because Gaza is not a standalone entity, it's part of the occupied territory. But so, in particular, Israel cannot claim the right of self-defense against a threat that emanates from the territory it occupies, from a territory that is kept under belligerent occupation. And this is not only this exists in the jurisprudence of the ICJ in general, it's also been said in the case of the occupied Palestinian territory.
What's poppin'? What's poppin', my friends, my family? Welcome to RBN Wednesday Live. And I'm listening to that. I'm like, that's exactly what I've been saying. Like, we've been quoting international law. We have people that have been going facts over their feelings, claiming that colonized people have no right to defend themselves against a genocidal state that's occupying them. Palestinians don't have the right to go after the IDF and the people who will be IDF, the people who are occupying Palestine. But according to those same people, Israel had the right to defend themselves against the people they are genociding and occupying and displacing. There's no, this is what our dear brother Malcolm X said, our dear brother. There's no legal, there's no intellectual, and there's no moral basis for the state of Israel. So if you can't, and this is the route I take with right-wingers. If you can't appeal to people's morality, if you can't appeal to their intelligence, that usually apply to most right-wingers, especially the Zionists you see. Quote the law. I thought you was all about law and order. I thought you was about give me liberty or give me death. If you don't believe that the Palestinians have the right to defend themselves, we might as well throw away the Second Amendment. Why do we even have the Second Amendment? Might as well throw it away. Because if the Palestinians don't have the right to defend themselves, then no one does. Who else does? Who's more oppressed? Who has the more just case on the law than the Palestinians? So why would anyone allow the ruling class to take that off the table for oppressed people? Makes zero sense. Now we have a great guest, Wyatt Reed, who will be joining us today. Give me a thumbs up whenever you're ready, brother. But I want to introduce something to you guys. And this is what I've been saying on RBN, because this is the concept that they want Americans and people to take as face value. That Hamas are the terrorists. Israel has the right to obliterate their terrorists. Essentially, everything you've been hearing come out, Israel has been a lie. People have realized that psychotic state of how Israel lies as a culture. And now I hope people understand this era, what I've been saying. I want people to understand there's nothing wrong, and like boomers and establishment-minded people actually view the exact opposite. There's nothing wrong with looking at information that is provided by the government. There's nothing wrong with looking at analysis that is done by the government, and then you as a citizen saying, I don't believe you. You guys understand? I know that seems obvious to say, but our culture is so backwards. If you doubt what the Israeli government says, if you doubt what Biden says, if you doubt what the U.S. government says, you're labeled some sort of crazy conspiracy theorist. The culture will have you believe that it's a negative character trait to not trust what the government believes. You know how people say, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I usually not one of those conspiracy-minded people. What is that? Do you guys understand that the history of humanity is the history of conspiracies? The history of humanity is the history of governments lying to their own people. Every single empire did it. Why would anyone look at history, see every single empire lie to their own people, which every single empire has ever did, and then you will live your life knowing what history has been, and then you want to believe what the government and officials saying? You don't even have to accept their premise, which is why I don't do. I don't even accept the premise. Even when people I disagree with, for example, they will say that Donald Trump and MAGA Republicans are unhinged because they question elections. Since when has questioning elections been off the table? The United States questioned the elections of every single country that we don't like. Venezuelan elections are fraudulent. What's popping? Right, let's get our guest in. Chinese elections are fraudulent. Russian elections are fraudulent. Every election under the sun is fraudulent. But then you say, I don't know about American elections. I don't think that Joe Biden won. I don't think that Hillary won. I don't think that this person won. I don't think that Bush won. Then all of a sudden, how dare you question our institutions? And this is standard practice by liberals. Why would that benefit us? So actually, let's get our guests in here. We got a lot to discuss today. This is friend of the show, amazing independent journalist, doing great work with the Gray Zone. Welcome to RBN once again, my friend Wyatt Reed. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Nick. Good to see you.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot to cover, and we're gonna cover later. I don't know if you saw the what is the proper adjective to describe it? I can only call it a pro-war, pro-baby murdering rally. Like, what else can I say? I'm not trying to be. I'm not trying to be cheap here.
You're talking about the
ceasefire, but go ahead if you want to try.
You're talking about the Jews for Genocide parade?
Yeah, Jews for Genocide. I like that one. That's much better. That's much better. I just been calling the pro-war, pro-genocide rally. Jews for Genocide is good. We also what we're gonna get to first before we get into that because it's crazy. It's essentially a Klan rally.
What the march? The march.
Sign. What was that?
You mean the march? You're talking about the march was? Yeah.
The pro-Israel rally. Have you guys seen the signs where the signs were saying stuff like "There's no innocent Palestinians"? Finish them. I'm like, bro, if you seen KKK rallies with sign like that, people would freak out. And now it's the modern day. No one blinking the eye. There are babies and children being executed, hospitals being raided, and these people say no ceasefire. They got signs that say that all of them deserve it, and they are in public saying this.
Well, do you have that video of Van Jones's speech?
Because we can find it.
Yeah. That was insane. He almost accidentally said like we shouldn't have anti-Muslim bigotry, and then he caught himself because he realized that line's not going to work in front of this crowd. Like we can't do the Islamophobia thing in front of these people. We're just
that's going to be our second segment. So there's a lot of funny things to talk about that. I've seen a few liberals who support Israel that are upset because they're like, "How do you guys allow this right-wing Islamophobe speak at the event? How you allow this guy to speak?" And then we're like, "These are the people you made your bed with. Who do you think is the pro-Israel side? How do you think these people justify their position?" So anyway, we get to that later. I don't want to spoil too much of it, but we have this devastating raid on Shifa Hospital. But what's most disgusting, because I'm American and we're going to hold our government accountable, is how complicit Joe Biden has been with the genocide of the Palestinian people the entire time. He's even been sued by peace activists for doing nothing to stop the genocide. I would change the language. I applaud them for doing that, but I would change it for saying that it's not that he's doing nothing to stop the genocide. He's actively helping and abetting it.
He's complicit in it. It couldn't happen without him.
Yeah, absolutely. Feel free to interrupt me while I'm looking forward to hearing your perspective as well. But I want to show you guys this video with John Kerr. We're going to start here because there are a few things I want to show you guys on this. The overall theme of this is how the Biden administration is helping Israel do propaganda so they can justify the idea of raiding and bombing hospitals. Isn't it funny, Wyatt, how a few weeks ago you had Mossad agents like Ben Shapiro and the entire corporate media that was saying you guys are committing blood libel by saying we bomb hospitals. Remember that was just a week or two ago.
Right.
They went from saying that we committing blood libel for saying that Israel bomb hospitals to saying, yes, we bomb hospitals, we raid hospitals because Hamas is in there.
Right. Yeah, well, I mean, it's like it's not at that point anything is I can do anything. I can go out and kill or murder or rape anyone that I want to. And then if you complain about it, it's gonna be like, wow, it's kind of anti-Semitic of you, don't you think? It's just like, well, I mean, I guess.
Yeah.
I think it's more anti-Semitic to kind of suggest that this is something that Jewish people would be doing in general, and that rather than saying somebody calls me out for doing it is the anti-Semitic thing. Whatever. No, I mean it's insane, and the idea that obviously that Biden is some passive, disinterested observer is also insane. If he wanted to, he could pick up the phone right now and make this stop. I mean, this is the thing. Biden is way to the right of where somebody like Reagan was. right?
Yeah. Yeah.
In the 80s. I'm sure you guys have seen this thing. It made the rounds on social media, but it was a New York Times article from 1982. The headline here: Reagan demands end to attacks in a blunt telephone call to Begin, right? So this is when the Israelis were invading Lebanon, and basically, President Reagan picks up the phone call. This is the early 80s. And he says he expressed outrage to Prime Minister Menachem Begin today over Israel's latest bombing raids in West Beirut, saying the attacks had resulted in needless destruction and bloodshed. He, according to his press secretary, was shocked by the Israeli attacks, and he voiced his feelings directly to Mr. Begin. Basically, he let me see. I pulled up the wrong one.
Yeah, I can pull. I covered this not too long ago. I apologize.
Yeah.
What was
Right.
going on. Here it is. Here's what you was reading. If on the screen.
Yeah.
I made a tweet where I says it's sad that like you have Bernie Sanders that's to the right of Ronald Reagan on this.
Right. Yeah, that was you that wrote this. Okay, great. Yeah. No, I mean it was a great point. It was an excellent point, and it's totally correct. We just have this completely unhinged Zionist in office, and like there's nothing that they can't get away with at this point. So they're going all the way out. They are literally invading hospitals as we speak. Assaults on Al Shifa Hospital, the main hospital in Gaza, as we speak. Currently, they are inside the hospital, terrorizing patients, and I'm sure arresting and plenty of people and doing what they do. So yeah, as there it is. As he says, he said, "This is a Menachem. This is a Holocaust." Right. So he tells the Israeli prime minister to his face, "What you're doing is a Holocaust." Right. And then 20 minutes later, he called back saying he had ordered Ariel Sharon to halt the attacks. Reagan thanked him, hung up, and said, "I didn't know I had that kind of power." Now, whether you believe him or not, the case remains that obviously the U.S. president does have that kind of power. Biden could pick up the phone, make the exact same phone call, and say, "Oh, you guys want to continue to have ordinance for your Iron Dome? Well, then you have to stop." Conditions, red lines, all these things that these pieces of diplomacy that you would wield with any other government on planet Earth, all of a sudden are just out of the picture when it comes to Israel.
I'm trying to find this article to your point because here it is. Oh, Jesus Christ. I wish I had the New York Times just so I can show you guys how stupid it is. This is propaganda on the next level because if you don't study this, you won't even know that it's propaganda because they're trying to pretend that Biden is not as powerful as he actually is. And this article is from maybe a week or two ago. It said Biden confronts the limits of U.S. leverage. What? So the premise of this article, because I'm locked out of New York Times. Actually, I'll read the subheadline first. It said President Biden's influence over Israel and Ukraine seems far more constrained than expected.
Oh man, I'm reading this. It's insane. It says for 10 days, the Biden administration has been urging Netanyahu to allow for humanitarian pauses, hoping that the $3.8 billion a year in American security assistance would carry with it enough influence over the Israeli leader's tactics. It has not. It has not. Biden tried. He did his darndest, and gosh, wouldn't you believe it? It just wasn't enough. Oh well.
And Wyatt, the media is running this. The New York Times is running this idea as fact, man, we're powerless.
It has
Despite the fact, I remember very early on. I can't quote it exactly, but very early on, John Kirby or one of the Biden State Department officials was asked about whether U.S. aid to Israel is on the table regarding negotiation. They said no, there's no fucking way. We never did. Why not? Nigga, that shit will be over, bro. That alone, that in the Ukraine aid, it'll be over. So the entire New York Times article, as you was explaining here, the premise that Democrats are going with is, man, we really care. We really wish we can stop this. Bullshit. Absolute bullshit. So not only are they not stopping them, they're providing intelligence for Israel and helping them bomb civilian locations. They are providing intel. There have been U.S. troops
drones flying over Gaza right now.
Exactly. Exactly.
They have. I mean, we have special forces on the ground. Doing what? Probably not, organizing humanitarian aid.
Meanwhile, the entire corporate establishment pretending that it's the exact opposite. It's only the gray zone and RBN that will tell you just this common sense shit, right? So let me show you guys this because it's.
But it's. I
go
mean,
ahead,
it's not
Wyatt.
just us. I just want to say, and I've never seen the Democratic base so at odds with the leadership.
That's a good point.
Where it's just everyone you talk to. Every normal person that you talk to about this, just kind of a normal average Democrat, is kind of apprehensive about how far this has gone. If they're paying any attention at all, they're like, what the hell is going on? And then there's this massive disconnect, and it's somebody like Senator Chris Coons sitting across from Aaron, who just not only feels like this is the only acceptable opinion to have, but then if you disagree with him and try to challenge him on it, he literally will have the police throw you off the train. And this is just Aaron wasn't like expounding some radical. He wasn't going in there being like, yay Hamas, I think they should have had more captives. He was having a pretty reasonable.
Dude, that clip that Aaron got, that is top tier journalism. That's why it's funny. Was it Chris Coons? Remind me, what was the politician he called out? I forgot. Was it Chris Coons? In my memory, right?
Yeah.
Chris. Okay, so it was Chris Coons. So he was like, Aaron, this is not professional journalism. Bullshit. That is the highest quality of journalism that I can only dream to strive to get a clip like that. That's why it's funny.
Yeah, he wouldn't know real journalism if it smacked him in the face, and if he had kept talking like that, it just might have
Yeah. So to your point, that's a good point, Wyatt. The agents, I should be careful with my words, but the agents in the media, they are the only ones going along with the Israel bullshit. It's even to the point where people in the professional managerial class, we all know that they're not going to be strong allies because they are restrained by their capital and their positions, right? So if you're in a high government position, even if you got a executive position at a business, what if that business is linked to Israel some way? You know what I mean? So even if they want to support Palestinians, they won't because their capital will be affected. So even though the PMC may not be a bad person, that's why we say that professional managerial class people are not inherently good allies, because they will always be restrained by professional retaliation. And it makes sense on a human level too, because imagine if you're just some person, you got all this college debt, you got 3 kids you're trying to feed, and you might care about this issue, but your family comes first, right? But we as Marxist working class people gotta understand this, right? We understand there will be limits to what these people can do for us. But with that said, there are people that got jobs they don't want to lose, like Democratic aides. Wyatt, I covered how 100 State Department officials was signing a memo condemning Biden. So they doing the best they can within their very constrained limits of what they can do as PMCs. To your point, these people that are like, man, this shit's too far. They don't want their names attached to this history making genocide. But anything you want to add to this, Wyatt, before we move on?
Well, you're exactly right, and where we saw that play out, I just sent you an article that I wrote a couple of weeks ago, because we saw that play out at the Gray Zone, that exact specific dynamic over the past year with an event called Web Summit, which is the leading tech summit in Europe, arguably the biggest one in the world. It was run by a guy named Paddy Cosgrave, an Irish guy who last year, actually, believe it or not, invited Max and Aaron to give a address at the summit in Lisbon. And so I was out there. I had been in France before then.
This is crazy.
And so I went out to Lisbon to go meet them there. And lo and behold, the night before the address, we're all getting together, and it turns out, oops, the speech has been canceled, right? Why was the speech canceled? Well, the speech was canceled because the guest of honor at the event was meant to be a woman named Olena Zelenska, right? The wife of Vladimir Zelensky. and she had gotten wind of the fact that Max and Aaron and somebody named
I
Noam
remember
Chomsky
this.
were going
Yeah.
to speak. And so she threatened to have the entire event destroyed. She threatened to sabotage it, not only just destroy the event, but then call each one of the attendees and all of the sponsors
Ultimate
and
Karen.
and accuse them, exactly, the ultimate Karen,
That's
accuse
a
them
boss
of being
level
Russian
Karen.
sympathizers if they didn't uninvite Max and Aaron and Noam. And so I think the compromise was, okay, well, we're going to keep Noam, but we're going to give up Max and Aaron. We're going to have a nice little dinner for them and then leak it to the press that we did so that, you know, we get to kind of play both sides, whatever.
Yeah,
You know, it was a weird position. It was an untenable position. But lo and behold, 1 year later, what happens to Paddy Cosgrave? Well, he made the mistake of tweeting out war crimes are war crimes, even when an ally does them. Step over the line, right? He's an Irish guy. He has his principles. A lot of Irish people feel pretty strongly about the Palestinian issue. There's a lot of solidarity going back between the IRA and the PLO for decades and decades. They were partners, you know, in the revolutionary struggle for decades. But what happens now? Well, he makes this horribly offensive tweet suggesting that Israel is capable of carrying out war crimes. Spoiler, they are. And he, as Facebook dropout, Meta dropout, right? Amazon, Google, all of these massive companies immediately drop out. A handful of Hollywood actors, I think like Joseph Gordon-Levitt, threatened to drop out. I don't know what he knows about tech, but neither here nor there. And ultimately, he was replaced. And who was he replaced by? Well, this woman named Catherine Mayer. I'm not sure how to say her last name. She was the director of the Wikimedia Foundation, right? Put in place right as Wikipedia basically becomes a Western intelligence asset. She has spent time at the Atlantic Council. She's on the Council of Foreign Relations. She was on the National Democratic Institute, that CIA cutout affiliated with the Democratic Party. She works for the State Department. This is who they had to replace Patty with, right? They had to go so far the other direction that there can be no question. And it's, you know, from his perspective, he has all his money tied up in this event. It's either like self-immolate and destroy all of your money or play the game.
Yeah.
And so at the end of the day, it's like, well, that's your money, you know, as a like rational actor on the free market. What are you going to do? You know?
Yeah, I remember that story about Zelensky going full boss level Karen on you guys, and the heat that Gray Zone get, I am deeply envious of. Like that is that is great heat. I always like to make the pro wrestling comparisons. Like when if you guys don't know, if you're a bad guy in pro wrestling, you're supposed to get booed. Like if you the louder the boos, the better heel you are. If you are an independent journalist in the most violent empire of all time, or you covering the most violent empire of all time, you want them to hate you. Like, and we get baby heat, right? We get baby heat. Like Mediaite ranked us as the most extreme, far left.
Right.
Media.
Yeah,
So
I remember that. That was awesome.
Yeah, we can only dream, and our goal is to strive to get the heat like Gray Zone does. People like, man, nigga, I'm glad that you go out there and tell the truth. Like, I don't know any other way. Like, if I had establishment swamp monsters cheering for RBN, we would have to do some second guessing. But anyway, I'm just riffing now at this point.
We should sell hot sauce, you know, just like the levels of heat, CIA fed heat.
Dude,
I don't know.
When I read y'all Wikipedia page, I'm like, this is glorious. Like that's the Wikipedia page of the Gray Zone is just pure salt from the establishment. I can't wait till we get one day, bro. That's just pure salty shit from the establishment. But let's get back to the topic at hand. I don't want to stay too long on this part here because I want to make sure I don't want to take too much of your time. I'm playing for maybe an hour, 70 minutes at most. Cool. So I'm playing most of this clip. It's gonna be hard. Feel free to interrupt if you want to chime in, Wyatt. The point of this first segment before we get into the genocidal Jude for Genocide rally is I want to show you guys how complicit Biden is being with not only the war crimes that are going on in Gaza right now, but they are helping Israel spread their propaganda. So the White House is saying stuff like, we did analysis and we confirmed that Hamas is in hospitals. And people are like, do you got people on the ground to confirm that? No, Israel told us.
Right.
What? Anyway, let me play the clip. I don't want to waste any more time. Let me play the clip. Feel free to interrupt if you want to, Wyatt, because it's going to be pretty hard to get to.
Yeah, I wrote a piece about this, so I'll send it to you.
Yeah, for sure. So I'll let this play just for our audience know what we're talking about here. But feel free to chime in if you want to correct anything.
Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu was on Meet the Press this morning. I want to get your reactions to some of the things he said. One of the things he said is that there could be a potential hostage deal with Hamas. Can you give us any details on that?
We are working literally by the hour, Jonathan, to try to secure the release of all the hostages. There has been active negotiation and conversations going on with our counterparts in the region, all throughout, including Israel, including Qatar. We're hopeful that we can get somewhere, but I don't have a specific update for you today.
That is bullshit. So they keep doing this in the media where we trying our best to get the hostages out. Israel was clear with their raid of the hospital that their goal is not even to save the refugees. The goal of the raid is to plant evidence that Hamas operates in the hospital. They were quite clear that it's not a hostage rescue operation. And the Gray Zone and many others did great reporting on how Israel don't give a fuck about ever rescuing hostages. They view them as liability. In fact, they'd rather have them murdered so you don't have old Jewish ladies coming out and said that Hamas treated her well, like you had before. People, I'll let it continue. Feel free to chime in if you want to. We're not gonna get too much longer in this. I just want to show you guys, like he's such a propaganda weasel. But let's continue.
I was about to ask, is it likely to be soon that we could hear more details?
I really don't want to get into too much detail because, again, the less said publicly about these sensitive negotiations and conversations, probably the better.
That's exactly what the Prime Minister told Kristen. So another thing that he said was that he would not commit to supporting an international force in Gaza, and he opposes the Palestinian Authority returning to Gaza. He said the overall military responsibility will have to be with Israel. Your reaction to that?
Well, we don't want to see, and the president has been very consistent on this, we don't want to see a reoccupation of Gaza by Israel. We think that's not.
You see how they pretend they have no say over this? I'm gonna it's such bullshit. Oh man, we don't want to see it, but man, oh well.
What are you gonna do? Our hands are tied.
Israel, it's not good for the people of Gaza, so we do not support that. What we do support is some sort of governance in Gaza long term that includes the voices and the votes and the self-determination of the Palestinian people.
Regime change.
What does that look like? We don't know.
Exactly. That's exactly what he's saying. We got to kill thousands of kids so we can change the government. We're the good guys.
Anytime one of these assholes start talking about recognizing democratic aspirations of some group of people that they don't give a shit about, that's how you know. Regime change.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. We're asking ourselves those questions literally every day as well. And we're going to continue to talk to our Israeli counterparts about that. But we've been very clear. Reoccupation of Gaza is not in the best interest of anyone.
Are your Israeli counterparts also having those conversations about what comes next?
We are having those conversations with our Israeli counterparts, yes. Now, what they're saying inside their war cabinet, I'll let them speak to you, Jonathan, but we are certainly having those conversations, and we are asking those questions. Quite frankly, I think they're asking those questions of themselves, too. We don't have a set piece answer to what governance in Gaza needs to look like. But I can.
That's the word that I get from, that's the overall vibe we get from like the past month from the Israelis, right? It's like calm, cool, introspected, like very self-aware, that's really the vibe that we're going with. Like you think they're really like asking themselves questions about like, I wonder, what the international community will think about this. It's like, no, come on, man.
Absolutely. Let's continue.
I can tell you that we're very focused on that.
Another thing that the Prime Minister said on Meet the Press was he repeatedly said the IDF ground offensive is reducing the number of civilian casualties because the population is heeding the call to vacate zones of fighting. Is that true?
I think he's talking about these humanitarian pauses that they announced earlier in the week, where for 4 hours at a time, 3 hours of heads up to get people out. They've also added a second avenue corridor, safe passage down along the coast, so to leave North Gaza to get into southern Gaza. So they have put in place measures to try to allow for people to leave, and that will unquestionably, just mathematically speaking, it will take people out of harm's way and therefore reduce the potential harm to them. They're also in the ground operations. They've moved into Gaza City in a way that is less fulsome.
Ethnic cleansing, but good
is what they had.
Ethnic cleansing, but good. They're doing the good version of ethnic cleansing. Cleansing.
They're just, it's for your safety. It's safety ethnic cleansing. That, like if you don't get ethnically cleansed, that's your fault and you deserved it.
You should follow directions. You should just fucking listen to us as we ethnically cleansing you.
Should have got on the train.
Yeah. Yeah. I almost at the point I wanted to hear, but let's listen.
Originally expected to do. So when you're doing it with smaller units and on the ground, you can be a little bit more cautious. But I want to be clear that there have been many thousands of innocent Palestinians killed, and each one is a tragedy, and we grieve and mourn with every single one, and we know that there are loved ones left behind here. The proper number of civilian casualties ought to be 0, and everybody ought to be working to that goal.
Let me get you on one more question, because the Secretary of State Antony
Blinken, adopt this ridiculous tone whenever they say stuff. It's in an ideal world, nobody would be mass murdered at all. But it's like this. It's so condescending, that little tone that they do. It's nobody wants to see innocent premature babies dying in front of them on video. But what do you want, Hamas to win?
Yeah, that's the tone of a bullshitter right there, and these probably
look at that face, look at that facial expression.
Yeah,
just feigning concern for and it's
we show you guys.
Well, Kirby was the one who cried about.
Yes, I was just about to bring that up.
About what was it, the Ukrainians, and he's literally bawling on camera, and then he's asked about Palestinians, and he's just well. What are you gonna do?
It's what it is, man. Come on, man. Sometimes you got to bomb some babies. Who haven't bombed a baby every once in a while. We almost done with this. I want to see what the last question.
Basically said what you just said. There far too many Palestinians have been killed in Gaza.
Yeah.
Is Prime Minister Netanyahu listening to these entreaties from U.S. officials? Is he hearing what you just said?
I can tell you that almost since the early hours of this conflict, Jonathan, as a part of every conversation that we're having with our Israeli counterparts, from the prime minister all the way down, we talk about civilian casualties and the need to be respectful of innocent life, to abide by the laws of war, which Hamas won't do, and to try to minimize civilian casualties. And that is, we even sent over some military officers, some expertise. These are leaders that have fought in places like Mosul and Fallujah, urban warfare environments, to share our perspectives and lessons learned about reducing civilian casualties. And we're going to keep having those conversations.
One more question for you. Yesterday in Saudi Arabia, there was a summit, an Arab summit, that included not just the Saudi crown prince, but also the presidents of Iran and Syria. And they put out a resolution where they called not only for a ceasefire and an end to all of this, but accused Israel of war crimes. Your reaction to that summit and to this resolution and what they're calling for?
Well, I'll certainly let our Saudi counterparts speak to their summit and who they invited and why. Obviously, we have our views about Bashar al-Assad and certainly President Raisi and the regime in Tehran as destabilizing actors and certainly increasing threats in the region.
So these are unique authoritarian leaders, Wyatt, as they're defending the country that is bombing babies in hospitals. You know how we can't listen to those people in the Arab League. They got leaders that are authoritarian. Oh, let me buddy up with my friend that bombing hospitals.
you know what that Assad did? He dropped white phosphorus on civilians. Can you imagine who would do such a thing?
We're almost done.
You know what's a war crime? It's paragliding into a music festival and slaughtering young people that are just.
You know who knows about war crimes? You know what? That was such a boomer dad way to say it. You know what a war? You know who knows about war crimes? Them Hamas boys really did. It's
time, murdering families, maybe children in front of their parents and parents in front of their children. A war crime is headquartering your command and control in the basement of a hospital or a school.
What? You guys see the seeds? I know it took a little long to get there, but you guys see the seeds that the Biden administration is planting?
Well, they've embraced this fully. They have embraced this fully. They say that there is a command center in the basement of Shifa Hospital. They say there's a command node. This is something Jake Sullivan, the national security advisor, has said now. And this is, we have, I wrote a piece about this last
I think this
night.
is it right here. This is it?
Yeah.
Oh, it just came out. I haven't got a chance to check this out yet. They said Biden administration justifies Israel's assault on Gaza hospitals with recycled Israeli intelligence. See, this is what I caught. And I saw the receipt, the Twitter receipt. So I'm actually interested in seeing the receipts that you guys put in the article, but I'll pass it to you if you want to. This is a great article. I need to read this when we're done. But I'll pass to you, Wyatt, so you can sum it up. How essentially the Biden administration is helping Israel spread the lie that Hamas is embedded in hospitals, despite the fact that hospitals, doctors have been there for decades. Like, there's no Hamas here. If there was Hamas here, we would know, if anyone. But anyway, Wyatt, I'll pass to you if you want to speak more on the article.
Well, that's totally true. And there have been a number of doctors who have pointed this out. There was a pretty famous Norwegian physician named Dr. Mads Gilbert, who told Al Jazeera 3 days ago that I'm sick and tired of the Israeli claims that these are Hamas command centers. Said, as I've said 100 times, we've never seen high-ranking Hamas people in Al-Shifa. And he says we're able to roam freely, so he would know if they were there. But this is the claim, though, that Jake Sullivan is embracing. John Kirby, he said, I can confirm we have information that Hamas and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad used some hospitals in the Gaza Strip, including Al-Shifa, and tunnels underneath them to conceal and support their military operations and to hold hostages.
Dude, and by the way,
this is something Sabrina Singh was asked about at the DOD briefing yesterday. Again and again, she was like, what is the information that you have? She said, I'm not going to get into intelligence. Well, where did it come from? Did it come from American intelligence advisors?
I think this is the video you summed up this one, right?
Yeah, right.
Let's play it. Because this is a great breakdown exposing this. And by the way, before we get to the video, because that's essentially what you was summing up here. Whenever you see anyone in the government use this word, confirm, they're lying. Every time.
And you notice how Jake Sullivan, he said that Hamas does use hospitals along with a lot of other civilian facilities for command and control, for storing weapons, for housing its fighters. And he cited open source reporting. He says, we all know from open source reporting. So it's not even like he's not even offering any like specialized intelligence, anything no one hasn't seen. He's basically saying like you can look it up in a newspaper.
Yeah. So I'm gonna play the video that you were discussing earlier. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I want you guys
to go ahead.
This is a great expose of how the United States propagate Israel propaganda. They did the same thing when Israel killed Shirin Abdul-Akleh, where they said, well, we can confirm that Israel did attack Shirin Abdul-Akleh. Like, where are you getting that from, Israel? Essentially.
Yeah, and the narrative kept changing. It changed like 10 times. Remember, first it was, we didn't kill her. First it was like, she's nobody's dead. We didn't kill her. Oh, they killed her. Oh, well, maybe it's possible that Israelis killed her. Oh, well, actually, the Israeli army did kill her, but it wasn't on purpose. And it changed like 6 times the story. So and the entire time, the U.S. government is just hands off. And I think they expressed outrage once or twice, and then they got over that within a couple weeks.
Yeah, and I did a segment explaining how the Biden administration was refusing to acknowledge all independent investigations, and they were doing their best to block further investigations.
Yep.
The Biden administration, made no doubt about it, shielded Israel after they killed Shirin Abdul-Akleh. So even if you haven't followed the Israel conflict that long. Like I'm maybe only did maybe a few years now since I started RBN. The Gray's only been covering this forever. Even if you haven't been following this long, seeing that Israel lied about executing Shirin Abdul Akleh, their constant lies over the last year, that alone should make anyone make people realize that they shouldn't believe anything that Israel say. But anyway, let's get to the video for a second. Let's get to the video. This is a great breakdown of how U.S. spread Israel's bullshit.
We do have information that Hamas and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad uses some hospitals in the Gaza Strip, including the Al-Shifa hospital, as a way to conceal and support their military operations and hold hostages. They have tunnels underneath these hospitals.
We
And
have
so
information. We're not going to
Hamas
share it
and
with you,
PIJ
but we have it.
members operate a command and control node from Al-Shifa hospital in Gaza City. They have weapons stored.
I explained this concept to you guys before. If they have evidence that damns their enemy, they are showing it. They're not doing this
It
thing
would
like
be on
"Man, we gotta think-"
TV. It would be nonstop,
Yes.
24 hours on CNN.
It would be on the front of New York Post.
It would be
The
on
New
your
York Post
phone
would.
as soon as you pull your phone up and take it out of sleep mode. It would pop up. Oh, here's a news article for you.
Yeah. You think they ever been shy about this kind of stuff? Whenever they don't show you something, and I learned this through experience, they don't show you, it's bullshit. And I've never been proven wrong following that instinct. But let's continue.
There and are prepared to respond to an Israeli military operation against the facility. So I'm just telling you what we as the intelligence community assesses is happening in Gaza City, how Hamas is using these hospitals to operate. But absolutely, we do not want to see a firefight.
This
in
is
a
a
hospital
government
where there are
official
innocent
saying this,
civilians.
fam.
Fadi.
So you said earlier you don't have any forces on the ground, right?
That's right.
So I take it this intelligence assessment is gathered based on information provided by Israel?
Sorry, what I just read out, that's from our intelligence community.
So did you have any assets inside Gaza?
So if you guys missed it, he like, where you guys getting the information? If you guys keep telling us you guys have no one in Gaza like you guys are claiming, there are eyewitness reports as real.
Well, I assume it's coming from Israel because how could you not? And she said, "Oh, it's from the intelligence community," which means nothing.
Yes,
because it's like a big laundromat, and they've wandered and they just they draw. Oh, it's from our intelligence community. Okay.
Okay,
Sure.
so now I don't believe you. Like,
Whatever.
Are you trying
Are you trying
to make it least convincing now?
Right. Oh yeah, it's just the intelligence community. It's just something they know. And so now this part's good too because he's trying to clarify like what does that mean? Do we have boots on the ground? I'm sorry, I think I talked over her. If you want to jump back like 5 seconds.
Yeah, you good, no worries.
Yeah.
What I just read out, that's from our intelligence community.
So did you have any assets inside Gaza?
We have no assets or boots on the ground in Gaza.
So there's no gathering on the ground about this.
That's right.
So you have no one entering the hospitals to verify this information, right?
We have no boots on the ground in Gaza.
How was that assessment?
She admits.
How did you conclude?
We can't verify it.
On information received from your Israeli counterparts?
Well, I'm not going to get into more specifics on how our intelligence is collected. What I can tell you is there are multiple agencies.
It's a big tube. It's a big pipe, and it runs from Tel Aviv to Washington. It comes in one end, it comes out the other. It's pretty complicated.
This is I think this is the point. Maybe I might give her too much credit, but this is the point where she, as an intellectual human who got to this point, who is smart enough to realize that she's full of shit here.
Right?
She
got in a little over her head.
Yeah. At this point, she knows she's in the wrong. Like she knows this. Maybe 5 seconds ago. That when she like fuck.
Yeah, right. Exactly. There's a moment there. Like there was a moment. Let's go back. I want to see it again. You can kind of see her. Like
so let's see
her eyes jump up. Her eyebrows move a little bit.
I think it was about right here. Let's walk from right here and
there she's troubled. She's troubled. Yeah.
Yeah. She's like, I'm fucked here.
How did you conclude that assessment based on information received?
Well, I'm not going to get into more specifics on how our intelligence is collected. What I can tell you is there are multiple agencies, as you know, here within the department and across the administration, multiple agencies that collect and assess and analyze intelligence, but I'm not going to go into any further details on how that intelligence is gathered.
You're confirming that you have no assets on the ground or assets entering to these hospitals to basically confirm the information you're sharing with
I
us.
will say it again. We have no boots on the ground in Gaza. Louis. I'm sorry, Jared, and then I'll come back to you.
She said we have multiple
What you just read.
agencies that are able to swallow Israeli propaganda whole. Plenty of people who are able to do that across the government. Don't worry.
So now you guys understand why I began this show with the monologue I did. People who don't live their life distrusting the government, you're like a child. Like you're living a life of make believe. It's not real. Like you might as well believe that Santa Claus is real. If you
I was
believe
gonna
it.
say,
Yeah.
you know, I hope no kids are watching this stream because I don't want to ruin any childhoods. But Santa's
Yeah.
not actually real. Like
Might as well.
those presents are not from the North Pole. I'm sorry.
This is why everything the government tells me, I unapologetically don't believe. Unapologetically don't believe it.
That sounds different than it's more expansive than what Mr. Sullivan said yesterday. So am I correct in saying this is new information that you are providing to us?
Yep, that's correct.
New language that is being assessed by the U.S.
This is
intelligence
good, too.
community.
This is newly downgraded information that we felt was important to get out today, because there have
Today.
been a lot of questions about the hospital and how Hamas operates, and so it was important that important to get out there.
So she just admits.
Yeah, it was important. Yeah,
Go-
this
she
was
just
politically
admits it.
timed. This was politically timed. There are a lot of pictures and a talk, probably about premature babies, and all of a sudden we decided it was time to downgrade this intelligence and get it out there.
Dude, whoever is the reporter that she's talking to did a fantastic job.
Yeah,
You know you killed it when you get
Absolutely.
them to admit shit like this. Like
yeah.
she admits that the only reason the United States is believing Israeli reports now that Hamas is in hospitals because they gotta do propaganda as Israel is bombing and killing people in hospitals. You guys see how the
Exactly.
Biden administration is coordinating with the genocide? So I'll let the last 20 seconds here play out, and then we move on to our next segment here, so we don't be too long.
And to clarify on Fadi's questions here, so this is an independent U.S. assessment separate from the Israeli, their own assessment, or is this information that they provided to you that then you've analyzed?
Yeah, I'm not going to get into more specifics on the intelligence. I can tell you that this is information that was downgraded and collected by the intelligence community.
The intelligence community, whoever the hell that is, wherever the hell they got that from.
I showed you guys this headline before. This is why they're doing it. You guys see the headlines? I'll just pick one. All the headlines are pretty much identical. Israeli troops scour Gaza Shifa hospital for Hamas fighters. Weapons. Now you guys, the media like it's our job. The White House like we did our job. Now the media like it's our job to reaffirm the bullshit. Now, like,
well, the thing is, they're going to find what they are going to find a bunker under there because the Israelis built a bunker under that hospital in the 80s. So there is a bunker under there. But as to whether it has anything in it, whether Hamas fighters are there, I extremely doubt. I very much doubt. Because, you know, and if they're actually coming and going through the hospital in such a way that, you know, that I very much doubt.
So I'm going to ask you guys this. Will the side that believe they are on the side of truth and justice lie in such a belligerent way about the fact that Hamas got tunnels in hospitals and civilian areas? Isn't it funny why I make the joke all the time, but you guys got to bear with me. But isn't it funny how before Israel and the United States intelligence had no idea what Hamas was? Right. Now the second after October 7th, after they was exposed by having an intelligence failure, now you know where Hamas is all the time.
Everywhere. They know where every single member is. They're recording all their phone calls, releasing them once a week. And weirdly enough, they all speak very shitty, broken Arabic with an Israeli accent.
It's kind of weird, man. You sound like a conspiracy theorist to me, Wyatt. You tell me you don't believe those tapes that sound completely legitimate? Anyway, let me show you guys something else that's completely legitimate. This guy Mario, who got like way more followers than me. 1 point, Jesus Christ. 1.1 million followers.
Crazy.
I don't know who he is, but that's all I'm known for. Breaking.
I think he's like friends with Elon or something. He's somehow,
Of course.
he's
Of
somehow
course.
like in this kind of crew. He does like all the spaces for Elon. And so they'll like get me to talk about, they would get me on to talk about Ukraine sometimes.
But they're not fucking with Israel.
But, well, I mean, it's just like this extreme centrist shtick.
Yeah.
And it's also partly, I think it's partly motivated by like the payouts on Twitter, where like
yeah, dude,
you
those
just
payouts made a lot of accounts unbearable, man.
yeah, it's just like constantly like asking stupid questions like Israel is a terrorist state. Do you agree? Reply in the comments. It's just like shut up. Just like just
and there are a lot of people that learn how to game the system where they'll just take a headline, take a picture, repeat the headline into farming engagement. Like I noticed ever since this thing happened, there have been a lot of low info posts. I think I've been consistent. But anyway, let's continue. So this is one of the people. He's an Elon guy, I guess. He's a centrist, and I know who these style of people are. Now that you mention it, these are the people who believe everything the government says. They're radical. Oh, I'm anti-establishment. I'm a free thinker, but I believe everything the government says about China. I also believe what the government says about Venezuela. I believe what the government says about communism, socialism. That's who these people are.
And this guy, he posted this insane post. It's just it says that there's like an 8-level underground labyrinth, total underground city. It's like a feat of modern engineering. No one has ever created anything like this. Except in besieged Gaza, they're somehow able to create this massive underground labyrinth that's got he even says there's a metro on there. And that was when I clued into the fact that you're literally just regurgitating Israeli propaganda, because the only people who use the phrase Gaza metro is the IDF. It's the IDF.
I'm gonna show you exposing this guy. But I explained earlier this week, the empire is lazy. Like when you've been following this, like me and Wyatt and others, it's not hard to debunk them because they use the same propaganda techniques.
Right.
I remember being a teenager hearing about Bin Laden's cave. You guys remember the Bin Laden's
caves?
And I was a sweet summer child back then. I was like, damn, that's crazy. That motherfucker got caves and shit.
Yeah, right.
I was young. Sorry, guys. I was a young dumbass back then. But hey, you guys see how they repeat the same fucking shit? You know what I mean? Now there's Hamas tunnels in hospitals. And whenever they make up these very specific details, that's how you know they're bullshitting. Like if you look, this text is very small. Those are possible to see. But when you look at the Bin Laden caves, in order to make it believable, they say stuff that's super specific. You know what I mean? And that's what this is. Like system ventilation ducts bring air into the caves and provide alternative exits. Arms and ammunition, including Stinger missiles, are stored in secret underground. How do we even know this super specific shit for one?
It's neocon fan fiction. It's neocon fan fiction. That's all it is.
Term, right?
They're just sitting there just like, and I bet he does this, and I bet he probably has his 72 virgins over in this chamber, and yada yada. You know what I mean? Like just like but as soon as you hone in on just like a single detail and you actually think it through, the whole house of cards collapses. Like, you know, and like what I'm saying with the Mario post. And the other thing he says, there's 500. What do you say? There's 500 kilometers, and they're 80 meters under the ground. And it's like, okay, hold on. Like we're talking about 80 meters, 500 kilometers. How much dirt are you displacing in this tiny, like the whole Gaza Strip is like 7 miles wide and 20 miles up and down, right? So I did the math, and at the low end, just a normal like 2 meter tall tunnel, 500 kilometers. I was like, okay, this is like I think a billion like cubic meters. It was something like 400 Olympic swimming pools full of dirt that would be displaced if they were making this amount of tunnels. Like, what would you do with that dirt? Where would it go? Are you going to dump it in the sea?
Picking this construction up.
Yeah, right. Are you going to just dump it in the middle of the street? You're going to like turn it into dust somehow, blow it? Like, what are you doing? Like, where is it all going? And none of these people can answer these questions. And more importantly, with this one in particular, the pictures that he used were 9
Yeah.
years old, and one of them came from the IDF.
Yes.
Like,
Honestly, I was building up for that reveal.
yeah.
But as you, for one, if I didn't get that far into that tweet, but if you got to this point, whenever someone say the IDF estimates, might as well stop reading right there.
Yeah.
Might as well stop reading right there. Let alone, and I'm sure this is what you did. You see the picture and like, man, I know this is bullshit. I'm sure people are like, this is bullshit. So let me just fucking Google search the images.
Oh, so like, what is that picture? Is like taken off of some like your Motorola Razor? Like, like what the hell was it? Like potato quality. There's probably like 4 pixels in total in that picture. Like it just looks so sketchy. It looks like it could be somebody's hamster cage. Like, what are you looking at?
As you see here, as Wyatt exposed this boy really bad. Jesus Christ.
We got him community
1.4
noted.
million people seen you expose him. The picture that they shared to explain Hamas tunnels is 9 years old, as you said. So why would people on the right side lie, disagree, so easily disprovable lies? Why do people believe they're on the right here? Go ahead, Wyatt.
I mean, that's the thing. And that is actually one thing I like about the community notes. It's kind of hit or miss, and it can be gamed by the Israelis. And sometimes they'll just send in a ton of people, and enough people kind of game the system, and they like get some Hasbara bullshit put under there. But other times like this, it works out. And it's like, if you just make a big enough stink about how obviously this is BS, like they'll go in and community notes it, and they community noted this one, which is great, you know? So like we made a big enough stink to get it corrected. And I do actually like this. I guess the angle is now if you get a post that gets community noted, it's no longer eligible for monetization, which I think is probably the smartest way to handle just the relentless, like people coming in and just posting insane, totally
just for,
unverified stuff just for engagement, just to be the first one that gets it out there.
Yeah, it's a good idea for that. There's a slippery slope because I've seen them community note true based ass posts, but the ability to shut down these people is good, but I don't trust Elon and stuff because I seen some based ass stuff get community noted, but it's good for moments like these. You're all right. One last thing, I'm kind of quickly going through because I definitely want to make sure I get to the Israel protest story. You guys see why the Biden administration is complicit. They are helping Israel spread propaganda and helping them manufacture consent so they can commit genocide. I may get into this story a little bit later, more detail maybe on Friday. I'm planning on having my friend from the Palestinian Community Network back on. We're going to have a panel of Palestinian activists come on RBN and discuss how we can help, share their perspective, and debunk more Israeli propaganda, which, as you guys know from the anti-imperialist summit we had, the Palestinian Community Network is as base as it get. They was organizing an action in Chicago to protest Biden and his lack of calling for a ceasefire and protest him in person. I'm very much looking forward to on Friday, so I may get into this more at that time just to save us some time. But I'll just read the headline and preface the segment. President Joe Biden, Genocide Joe, as I call him now. I don't even call him Jim Crow Joe. No, why did drop that? I love that nickname.
Yeah,
it's Genocide Joe.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I love that name.
They're both good. I miss Jim Crow Joe a little bit, but Genocide Joe is it's a little bit more topical.
It's more trendy, I should say, and that's what trends are about, right? He sued for complicity in Israel genocide in Gaza. So isn't it funny that Biden, the quote-unquote liberal president, keeps being sued by civil rights organizations? It's not the first time. There's another story I don't have time to cover. He was sued for approving the Willow Project. He won. He won that suit, so the Willow Project is going to continue. He sued here. He was sued for how he's handling the border crisis in ICE. So once again, the court's going to have his back on this without a doubt. But make no mistake, when you hear the establishment pretend that he has no power over this, it's complete bullshit. So I'm going to quickly get to the last segment because I want to make sure you hear, at least for the last one. Not going to be too long. I want to cover, in the premise of this segment, and this is the Jews for Genocide segment where they had a pro-Israel rally. This will be our last segment of the day. Just I don't want to keep you that much longer, Wyatt, but I want you to run for this segment. I think this is going to be fun. The argument that I've been making that have made people furious, but I don't care, is I'm not going to condemn Hamas. because Hamas is acting in self-defense. It makes no sense for me as a black person, any working class person, colonized person, to take armed resistance off the table. Especially when, even if I accept your premise, which I don't, by the way, but if I do accept your premise about what Hamas is, I want you guys to understand that Israel and their supporters are everything they say Hamas is. And that's if I accept their premise. If you think Hamas is a terrorist organization, Israel is a terrorist organization times 10, times 1,000. So
what
what
is the Gaza siege if not the biggest terrorist attack we've seen in our lives? That's like one month-long terrorist attack.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's meant to terrorize the population to force them to leave. That's the point. It's to terrorize 2.3 million people into leaving their homes.
Spread terror.
That is the point. It is, and they'll acknowledge it. They're pretty open about it, right? That's why they're all leaving North Gaza. That's why they're demanding people evacuate North Gaza, and then basically saying it's your fault when you get killed if you stay here.
Wyatt, I'm sure you engage with a lot of these people, these Zionist folks. I've been having fun with them on Twitter. I've been having a lot of fun racial these people. I'm like, all right, because I've been open about this whole thing, but like, bro, I don't view them as a terrorist organization. I'm like, if Hamas a terrorist, isn't Israel a terrorist? I'll keep asking them this. I'm like, what makes Hamas a terrorist and Israel not? And they will say stuff like this, sweet summer children. Well, we know Israel killed people, but Hamas purposely targets civilians. I'm like, oh, Jesus, you really want to go down this route?
Right.
Hamas killed kids. Oh, do you really want to go down this route? Well, Hamas raped people. Oh, do you really want to go down this route? And I'm not talking about just Israel. I'm talking about the United States.
Right.
The U.S. military is the biggest fucking raping organization in human history. Look at what they did to Iraq and Afghanistan.
Wait till you find out what happened at those CIA black sites. You know, it will give you nightmares. It will give you nightmares. Like, these are the world's leading experts in committing horrific, fucked up atrocities and coming up with new ways to torture people. Like they are the cutting edge of it. That's
why I avoid reading it, man. I maybe read like a few anecdotes about those black sites in Guantanamo, but I purposely avoid it. Like, I read one, like, fuck. I like, it fucks me up, man. I like, there's no way I can read what the fuck we actually do to people. I remember I read one. There was one account how some guy froze to death because they stripped people naked and then they chained them on a cold cement floor, and one guy died to hypothermia because of that. Well, that's a very mild example, but I read stuff like that. Like, gee, how can anyone be patriotic in a country where something like that is possible? But anyway, let me move on to our point.
I'll just say there's a lot of sexual violence and there's a lot of family. There's a lot of family stuff. Like, they make people's family members watch their family members go through sexual violence. Like, this was, you know what I mean? Like, just like real depraved. Like, you couldn't make a movie about this shit because it would just be too fucked up to be able to watch, you know, like, you know, so I'll leave it there, but
I don't want to get too
people who are interested can look further, but it's not the polite conversation, that's for sure.
Very disgusting stuff. Torture, there's a ton of reports. I got a few receipts, but I can't show them. I'm very scared about showing receipts on YouTube because we can get demonetized. But I've been reporting, I tweeted about how Palestinian people are being kidnapped and tortured. There's a video of this guy being tortured by the IDF. So Hamas is unique because they torture people. United States and Israel. So my point is, I don't even have, just for the simplicity of my argument, I don't have to defend Hamas, but everything you say Hamas is what Israel and the United States is.
Exactly.
You're going to see it with this pro-murder rally. Because another thing they say would make Israelis different from the terrorist Palestinians, they said, well, and I'm sure you heard this as well, right? Well, the Palestinians, they cheer murder and destruction. Palestinians want to murder all the Jews. So as a Palestinian, you guys say the Palestinians want to murder Jews. Israelis are murdering Palestinians, and you guys are calling for more of it. The way you guys say Hamas behave is what you guys do. So let me read this headline. I had this headline for too long. But look at this. Israel is deliberately using disproportionate force in Gaza and targeting civilian infrastructure in an effort to limit its own losses and showcase its military force, according to a confidential memo from the Dutch embassy. So once again, this is them targeting civilians. The thing that they accuse Hamas of being. So now we know that the military behave similarly, but one of the main arguments is the temperament. I don't know what the fuck they go with this, and I'm sure you've seen it too. Like I'm sure our audience is too. They bring up like the temperament of Hamas. Right. Yeah, I know we all know people, but Hamas is evil because they cheer it.
Right.
I don't get the point they make, but I've seen it quite a few times. The way Hamas cheer for war crimes is different than the way we cheer for war crimes.
They do it in an Arabic accent.
Yeah.
And they say Allah when they do it.
They say Allahu Akbar when they do it. It's scary when they say that.
Right.
That's what they believe. Just to be clear, that's what they believe, not me. So go ahead.
I was going to say the idea really that like Palestinian resistance is inherently anti-Semitic. It's always like projection too, because even this event, right, they featured a speaker named John Hagee, who's he's the chair of Christians United for Israel, and he's this big televangelist, massive Christian Zionist, huge, just huge anti-Semite, right? He's described the Holocaust as being like divinely ordained. He said God sent Hitler to carry it out to help Jews reach the promised land. He said Hitler was a half-breed Jew.
And, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, so
is this him? I'll try to find some.
This is who shared a stage with Van Jones and Michael Rappaport and all the other well-known dignitaries who came and spoke at this esteemed event, Jews for Genocide. And they apparently had no problem standing up there delivering a speech with this guy who ostensibly wants almost all Jews to die, right? Because I mean that's what happens in the narrative of this bizarre evangelical interpretation of the Bible that says that in order to have the rapture happen, the Jews need to take back the Holy Land, yada yada yada. Well, in this fantasy of that the Christian Zionists believe in, what happens to all the Jews? Well, they get judged for not believing in Jesus and they go to hell. So this is their allies, right? The Christian Zionists almost universally believe this, that ultimately most of the Jews will go to hell because most of them aren't going to come to their senses and recognize Jesus. So it's an anti-Semitic just the idea, right? The ultimate goal of this ideology is horrifically anti-Semitic. So it's no surprise that the guys who embrace it are also anti-Semitic. But this is here we have who we have speaking out in defense of the Jews now.
It's hilarious. And I told you, I made a tweet where I said my favorite new genre in politics are these evangelical Christians that tell people like Max Blumenthal and Dan Cohen that they're fake Jews.
Right.
And then Zionist Jews cheer on the Christians as they smear Jewish people with anti-Semitic tropes.
Right.
That one sentence alone should blow your mind. That shows you alone how Zionism is designed to make Jewish people unsafe. Now, I was just showing you guys some signs earlier. Like, there's so many receipts. I don't want to keep you that much longer. Why? We're almost done. But I'm going to read this one out loud in case you guys can't see it. Many Gazan civilians are Hamas in training. And there's so many these posters and these chants that are essentially saying that everyone in Gaza is responsible. There's a rally with essentially a calling call for collective punishment.
Yeah.
Now, this is the clip that I think you was asking about earlier. This is Van Jones, who was invited for the March for Israel to speak there. That's how comfortable they are with him. That he got this invite where Chuck Schumer and all these other Zionist politicians was at. The
Hope
only
he got paid
Negro
well
at
for
the
that.
event.
Hope he got paid well for that.
The only Negro at the event, by the way, because this is what a colonizer rally looked like.
Right. Just a mayonnaise sandwich.
and I've been having Jewish people. I didn't have this right. I really should pull this up though, because I ratio some crazy liberal Zionist Karen, because she replied to me like, "When Jews, we had your black people back the whole time," and I just simply replied like, "So because you put Black Lives Matter in your profile, you think that makes it okay for you to commit a genocide? Like, what the fuck are you saying?" That I had those exchanges so many times on Twitter and social media with the liberals, where they like, "Do you know
they want to hold over like BLM? They want to hold that over your head. Like I like stuck some little flag or thing in my window for 2 months in 2020, so you owe me for forever now."
I'm scrolling through my timeline. You guys know I'm not making shit up. I always like to show you guys receipts. I didn't have this saved in my notes. Actually, I won't, because I want to save time. I don't want to stay forever. But I had so many exchanges with these white liberals. Like, man, we stood with you with George Floyd. Why won't you let us commit a genocide?
I wonder if like do they say that to just like random people in their life too, to like their coworkers,
Dude,
just like
oh my
random
God,
black people, just like
I can only imagine, bro. That's fucking hilarious.
It's like,
dude.
you owe me, right? Like,
so let's it almost like it's a exchange. Like we got social brownie points when we stood up for Black Lives Matter, so we got enough social credit to buy a genocide. Come on, man, we allowed to do that, right? So I said colonizers supporting the colonizer project. So I should show that first before I went to the Van Jones one, but whatever. Because Van Jones was probably the only Negro there, the only fucking person of color. That's how much they trust him. That's why he's on CNN, and that's why we started RBN. Because any black person in general you see ever trusted by the establishment, it's a sellout of the highest order. Yeah. So during his speech, actually, just listen to the crowd and what they're chanting here. I don't even care that much about Van Jones. I think he's a hilarious side prop to the story. But look at how unhinged the crowd is as they are chanting "No ceasefire."
Against hatred.
Right.
Let's take a stand here against hatred of all kinds. I don't want any Jewish mother. I do feel powerful is to maybe.
So they were chanting "No ceasefire," and I think you explained earlier how Van Jones even had to stop himself for saying we must condemn anti-Muslim hate because he read the crowd. He's like, bro, if I say that shit, I might get lynched.
Well, he claimed that he got thrown off by them. He wrote on Twitter that he got thrown off by them chanting "No ceasefire," and so he meant to say stand up to anti-Arab hatred or whatever. But he didn't say that. I mean, if you let it play, I think I can't remember. Did he? It might. Is that all there was to it?
Yeah, this clip was just showing them saying "No ceasefire." Maybe I should find the clip where he corrected himself. But I'm gonna show you guys this too, because you guys seen the.
He said, "Let's take a stand against Muslims."
Yo, he was so nervous, bro. I would be nervous too if I was in this position. He's a sellout.
I think that is the same clip. I think if you let it play, I think.
Let's play it again.
Yeah.
Let's play it again.
Let me see.
It's only 27 seconds.
Think about what's happening here. Let's take a stand here against anti-Jewish bigotry. Let's take a stand against Muslims. Let's take a stand.
Oh, I hear it now. Jesus Christ. Let's take a stand against Muslim. Yes. I gotta hear this. Wow, I did not catch this. I was wondering what you were talking about. I did not catch this when I first saw this.
Muslim. Let's take a stand. Let's take a stand against Muslim. Let's take a stand here against hatred. Let's take a stand here.
Bro, he saw them people saying no ceasefire. This murder rally, the Jew for Genocide rally, is calling for the death of more Muslim children. So him seeing that, he's fucking scared. Like, bro, I'm a second away from being career lynched. You know what I mean?
I don't think he knew what he was doing. He was just trying to make a little money or something, and he didn't realize quite the situation he's walking into. Okay, so then I'm looking at his Twitter profile. He says, "My speech read, let's stand against anti-Jewish bigotry here. Let's stand against anti-Muslim bigotry here. Let's stand against hate here. But the chanting crowd threw me off and I misspoke. We need to stand with Muslims and Jews and everyone who is under threat." This is what he said on Twitter after that video of him blew up. And now he's kind of trying to present himself as though he's like critical of the rally now, because he retweeted a post from this
shit, I gotta
guy
see that.
Philip Lewis.
Yeah, here's his account here. Let me look, because
If you look at his timeline, and then he retweeted that video of him back when he claimed to have principles. So
why would he retweet this?
I
I've seen
know.
this video.
I know.
All right, so if you guys haven't seen it, I'm gonna play it. I wasn't planning on doing it, but why would you retweet this?
Why would he do that?
This
about
video
he's
shows
talking
that
about
you sold
himself.
out.
He's talking about himself in the future.
Yeah, listen to this.
Students can do that in 1960. The students can do that in 1970.
Man, the volume on this is weird. Hopefully you guys can hear it.
In 1993, when we have the United States government building a death camp, a concentration camp for black people who have done nothing wrong but get sick and want justice. That's all they've done wrong. If we can't close that death camp, if this generation cannot prevent another Japanese American internment in our lifetime, we should all get haircuts and go get regular jobs and give it up.
And this motherfucker got a haircut of regular job and gave up. Why would you retweet that?
I know. It's your life. You are talking to yourself. That is like
bro,
a time portal.
Dying, bro. Like, he has to retweet that. Like, why would you do that?
It's you.
I want you guys to see if you guys haven't seen it.
The call is coming from in the house. Like
this boy cooked himself. If you couldn't see it, I know the audio was, for whatever reason, on the desktop. I can hear it on my phone, but for whatever reason on the desktop, you can't hear it that well. If you couldn't hear it, this Van Jones sounds like a completely different person, sound like a radical. He said, if we give up resisting these prison states, essentially, we might as well cut our hair and get a regular job. And that's what Van Jones did. There was a point where he probably was a good faith actor, went in social change, got beat up by the system, and he cut his hair and got a real job. Why would you retweet you exposing yourself? Sorry, I got sidetracked because I didn't see that. That's fucking hilarious.
No, I didn't either. I can't, like, he just has no self-awareness. He's like,
so I think this is what you read. I think this is what you read. Oh, he got ratioed to death.
Yeah, he got destroyed on here. So that's why he felt compelled to post something about it and explain himself.
This boy is shambles. That's why he retweeting videos of him roasting himself.
Right.
He's in shambles, bro. He said, my speech read less than, you read this.
Yeah, he's leaning on his Maoist credentials, you know? He's like remembers when he was like a revolutionary in the streets, and now he's all of a sudden getting a little bit nostalgic or something.
Man. All right, let me quickly go through these last few receipts. I'll go through these quickly. And this is what you explained, the Israelis lobbies, and it was a AstroTurf event. They was paying people. I got a receipt. I'm gonna show you guys that. They was paying people to attend. But today we'll feature a speaker who claimed the Holocaust was divinely ordained. Here's JB. I'm gonna try to go quickly through these, and this is the video he responded to. He said, a sea of white people and no aerial view of the crowd compared with the pro-Palestine rally held a few days ago. Looks like 20,000 tops. And I don't know if you've seen this as well on Twitter. I've seen quite a few of these posts. I've seen Israel saying there was like 1 million plus people. No, it wasn't. This guy said 200,000 people. No, it wasn't.
Right.
No way at 200,000 people.
The Palestine rally might have been, and that was, you saw the footage where it's just 2 minutes of continuous panning from a helicopter. There was no that did not happen when these people came, when the Jews for Genocide tried to take over DC. That did not happen.
And this is, I want you guys to hear the pop. You guys know I love wrestling references. This guy gets a giant pop from the crowd as if he's a fucking rock star because he called for the continuation of the genocide of the Palestinian people.
As Prime Minister Netanyahu says so well, this is a fight between good and evil, between light and darkness, between
oh my God,
and barbarism. The calls for a ceasefire are outrageous.
Giant ass pop. We want more murder, more death. Yes, yes.
And this is the new
representation.
anti-establishment House Speaker, right? The guy
Yeah,
who's
the
supposed
guy
to.
that Matt Gaetz caused the funk for. Like Matt Gaetz did all that shit just to get this guy.
Right.
I want you guys to hear the crowd reaction. There's a reason why I'm calling it a murder rally. That's why calling it Jew for genocide is not being mean. In fact, I'm trying to find stronger adjectives to use to describe what this is. Because look at the reaction of them. This guy saying
Light
we want
and
more
darkness,
death.
civilization and barbarism. It's straight up like, yeah, like.
No, you're on point. That's exactly well said. I'll play this part one more time, and I'm pretty sure we're done here.
The calls for a ceasefire are outrageous.
It is not an exaggeration to say that was a meeting of a death cult.
I don't know why they don't just chant "kill them all" instead. You know, it would be like a little bit more realistic.
Yeah. So the last receipt I shared for today, we went a little bit long, but I appreciate you hanging in with us, Wyatt. But as you guys see, Israel is having a hard time getting people to show up at these events, right? So the people who generally follow what the government says, the people who just generally believe what the establishment does, they're not that like enthusiastic because it takes some sort of apathy to believe what the government say, right? It takes some sort of apathy to believe in Israel. So the people who most likely turn out are the people anti-establishment trying to expose government evil. So if you're holding a pro-war rally, it's not going to click. So they, at some college campuses like this one here, was quite literally paying people to attend pro-Israel rallies. And despite that, those rallies still did absolute pathetic numbers compared to the completely organic pro-Palestine rallies. There was a rally I saw in D.C. that was completely spontaneous after the news of Israel raiding Shifa hospital. Just like that, because the Palestinian movement ready, people been fired up over this issue, and we were mobilized. Meanwhile, they had to pay people to support the genocide of Israel. So I think I got everything I want to cover today. I got a few segments I may save to later because there's a big thread, and this is like a preview.
Yeah.
Oh, well, never mind. I don't have it saved. But the next stream, I'm going to do a whole thing where we debunk Israeli misinformation. Someone made a great thread where it was like 20 plus Israeli lies.
I saw 50 plus in 5 weeks. I saw.
Yeah. I think that may be it. I was going to cover that, but I'm going to say that for next time for the sake of time. Also,
well, there will be plenty more by then, I'm sure. We'll be up to 150.
Dude, we always behind, man. It's impossible to fucking cover everything. Because we also got a segment where Justin Trudeau, who also enabled the genocide, criticized Israel and said that Israel needs to stop killing kids and civilians. Essentially, in a nutshell, that's what he's saying. So despite the fact that he's aiding and abetting the genocide, him saying that made Zionists lose their fucking mind. So we can cover that. Now, like, he lost his liberal Zionist support. Like, Trudeau is fucked now. They're trying to cancel him simply for criticizing Israel for killing kids. So that's next segment. We'll put for later this week as well. But why not, Pastor? Anything you want to add? Any last words? Thank you for coming. Shout out any work you're doing. I gotta definitely read that article about the hospital. So that's I'm glad that you guys put that together. Always fun doing the show. I had a great time, Wyatt. So any last words? A few super chats here. Thank you for joining us, Wyatt. Any last words you have?
For sure. No, my pleasure. Thanks for having me again. Always happy to hop on. And I don't really have anything to hype up. Just check me out on the Gray Zone. Check me out on Twitter. My handle is WyattReed13. You can catch me doing the same kind of work and keeping the Zionists and whoever else on their toes, as always. We definitely got to do this again sometime soon for sure.
Yeah, we'll say it's always fun having you on.
I am.
So I'll pop you in the back. Thanks for joining us. I'll just read a few super chats I've seen came through. We appreciate all the super chats on support. If you guys enjoy the show, you guys see my thumbnails. You guys don't like my thumbnails, right? Unfortunately, Erin couldn't help us out today. I don't want to expose anything, but keep her in your prayers. That's all I'll say. Keep Erin in your prayers. You guys see what happens when we don't have a professional ass thumbnail person. So that's my ghetto ass thumbnail I'll do together. Erin does fantastic work. She helps us with the clips, and we pay her out of our Patreon. So we try to live what we preach. We want to make sure we pay everyone their fair labor value, but we can only do that if we have the capital to do that. So if you want to help us pay Erin, if you want to support our labor, Patreon is the best way to do it. Super Chats is a great way to support the stream as well. And also we got multiple mutual aid events. I think Savvy has a clothes drive. Actually, let me pull that up because I want to make sure I shot that out this Saturday. Let me pull that up. But let me read some Super Chats here. Thank you for the $9. Commander Cobra, friend of the show. By any means necessary. Thank you for $9.99. That was a Zion Nazi lynch mob. Dude, God knows. Imagine if I actually hit my computer. But imagine if Van Jones was substitute with me, Rome, or CJ. And then us not caring how the crowd reacted, we start talking about free Palestine. Ceasefire now. Israel complicit with war crimes. There's a good chance we might get lynched. Do you guys think that could happen? Dude, that crowd was riled up, bro. This some shit. We'll get fucked up. Maybe the police take us and they'll engage in police brutality. Something will happen. Like Van Jones was scared. Like he knew, like, bro, he fumbled his words because there was like, you see these fucking crazy psychotic colonizers calling for more war. You gotta be careful what you say at that point. I'm looking at your guy comment. I don't know if I'm being over dramatic here. Thank you for the 199 Janice. What about white supremacists for genocide? Definitely true. I don't think it's catchy though. Definitely true. I think Jews for genocide is just very. I think that was funny and very catchy. Israelis for genocide. I just call it a pro-war murder rally. That's why I've been calling it. That's why I labeled this video. I think it's very simple. Pro-war murder rally. Thank you for the 499 Cobra. If fascists want a war of annihilation, let's give them one. Based as Joseph Stalin. There's actually a few more that came through. We appreciate the super chats. John, Roman Empire representative. They are barbarians. United States representative. They are savages. Western imperialism is the real savage barbarian. Now, that's a great point because remember, we mentioned how our ruling class just repeat propaganda. Now, Hillary Clinton has Henry Kissinger as her mentor. She's explained this many times before. I remember Bernie criticizing her for that. How Henry Kissinger was a mentor. Mentoring her on what? The ruling class learned each other's techniques and tricks. The Nazis learned from our genocide of the Native Americans. The society that they envisioned was based on the black codes, how they treated black Americans. Imperialists, colonizers, and conquerors, they follow the playbooks of colonizers, imperials, and conquerors who are successful. I'm a big fan of history. I'm not saying I'm great at history. I'm a fan of history. And that's how you become anti-imperialist, by studying history. I don't know how people study history, which is essentially the history of governments lying to you. Human history is a history of conspiracy. Look at all the major events. All that is conspiracy. I keep punching my computer. But human history is a collection of very powerful people getting together and conspiring and creating an event which lead to a greater event later. That's essentially what history is. That's why conspiracy theories are often vilified. Meanwhile, I'm just ranting at this point. We need to get out of here. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the content this week. We got Wyatt read on today. I'm throwing on a panel of Palestinians for Friday, our friends of the Palestinian Community Network. Hopefully we don't have to reschedule that. We were supposed to do it today, but we move it to oh shit, I think my merch arrived. Let's go. I just got a text message that's saying that I finally ordered the merch, like our own RBN merch. I'm gonna show you guys next time. I just got a text that said it arrived in the mail. I'm so fucking hyped. I'm gonna have that on for next show. I don't even know the website. What the fuck? What's the RBN website? Merch website. Oh, here it is. I ended with that promotion. I read the last super chat. Thanks for the 199. Amanda, thanks for your tireless work, RBN. Appreciate you. I appreciate you. Appreciate you. I read this comment because it sounds smart. Facts, Nick. It was studying history that led me to socialism. Theory only made it real. Well said. I can read you guys' comments all day. I'm gonna shout out this because I finally got merch for myself. Very proud of this. In our team, like once again, people like Aaron help us put this together. So if you guys want to show love to Aaron, help us on Patreon because we give her a cut out of that, or GoFundMe it for Patreon. We still haven't collected anything from merch or anything, but we gotta make sure we take care of Aaron. I think I ordered one of these hoodies for now. Completely unserious is pretty fire. I gotta get that because you guys know I don that term. Now everyone's calling people unserious. Class warfare is needed. Where's the NATO one? The NATO one, abolish police. I'll wear that just so people. I want someone to start something with me. Lesser to evil, ACAB, U.S. imperialism. Oh, that's the one mocking Flo Blumenberg. I'm actually just looking for myself right now, to be honest. All right, so I need to end the stream. Make sure you guys check out our merch. I just now got mine in the mail apparently, so I'm gonna go check it out. Damn, what's my outro video? I guess I don't have one. Anyway, appreciate you guys for watching. Make sure you guys like the video. Make sure to see if you still subscribe and share our network so we can continue to grow. Our goal is to hit 50K by the end of the year. Much love, my friends and family.